Welcome to the 7th episode of the Handmade with Heart podcast. On today's episode, I interview Vanessa from one of Rosa'S Petals. We talk about balancing life with small business, upcycling, and the best ways to support other makers. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Handmade with Heart podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and I own the small business Scrappy Stitch. Have you ever wanted to know more about some of your favorite small businesses? Follow along as I interview other creative small business owners. We'll talk about getting started, what an average day for a creator is like, tips and tricks, and of course, everything is handmade with heart. Hey, Vanessa, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you got started?
My name is Vanessa Santos, and I'm the owner of one of Rosa'S Petals. It's a simple story where I wore a pair of earrings that I had made to work, and my one coworker says to me, "I like those earrings. Where did you get them from?" And I said, "I made them myself." She's like, "Can you make me a pair too?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can make you a pair." I made her a pair. Then she started telling people. And those people started telling other people. So it was kind of like word of mouth. We still had the internet, we still had, I think, Facebook and all that stuff at the time. But it was really through word of mouth and having someone say to me, "I like what you did." Now, I've always loved to make. I mean, since I was a kid, I used to make my dresses for my Barbie dolls. I was always creative and I felt like I can escape for a little bit. So I just always tried. And if it didn't work out, I just tore it up and made it all over again. Somebody else can see it and they go, "Oh my God, I like it." But as a creative, if that stitch didn't come out the way you wanted it to come out, you're going to rip it up, the whole thing, and do it all over again. A lot of the time, I like to say that I create for other people, but if it's not where I like it, I just tear it up. That's how one of Rosa'S Petals actually started. Just someone saying, "I like those earrings. Where do you get them from?" "Oh, I made them." They were button earrings. I took some buttons that I found at like a thrift shop. They had like a whole big bucket of them. And I shanked the backs off. I put the post on them. And then I just wore them. And that's how I originally started. And then from there, I taught myself how to wire. I taught myself about beading and the different kind of beads. And then someone at work, she's like, "I make things too. Have you tried a craft show?" I was like, "No, I've never even heard of a craft show." "What is that?" And she's like, "Yeah, where you go and you can sell your stuff." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you bring a table, you bring your stuff." And I was like, "Okay." So I tried my first one in 2003 and I've been hooked. And at first I would do anything: churches, yard sales, backyards, garages. I would just do everything. I loved it. I got pregnant with Xavier and I stopped for my 9 months. You have to carry heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I thought, I'm not going to do this while I'm pregnant. So I kind of waited for him to be probably like a year and a half before I decided to go back in. I can't believe like next year will be 2023 and it'll be 10 years. It could be difficult, but I love it. I love to attend the craft shows. You get to hear the, "Oh, that's nice," or, "Oh my God, how did you make that? Oh my God, how did that come about? Oh my God, how was this?" And it's a process, but a process that I enjoy doing.
You posted a picture on Instagram of your first craft show. And that just reminded me so much of my first one because we honestly probably were starting off around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, because mine was around in 2013 as well. And it just reminded me so much of my first one because our displays have changed a great deal. You learn to add height to stuff. And I had some of my stuff displayed on just, like poster board from AC Moore and, stuff. That's when my sign was like handwritten. It was wonky. The letters weren't even straight. And it was just like Scrappy Stitch.
Yeah. Like, let me go get that board from Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And we just put this on here so people know oh my goodness. You think of all the stuff and you're like, you grow, you just continue. I think Growing means putting in the time. If you want to grow, you have to put in the time. There's no way I'm going to be 10 years into this and still have my board. Now, it's fine. You love your board from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. No judgment. But you need to go and say, okay, I made this little bit of money. I'm going to go ahead and put the time in to make this. When I go to these handmade / vintage craft shows, you have no idea how much vintage stands and things that I have, because I look and I'm like, oh my God, I could put my rings in this. There was a day that I was like, I'm not buying anything more. I have enough displays for like 10 tables. Enough.
Right.
No more. And that's why each time when I do my shows, it's a little bit different. Again, talking about those boards from Dollar Tree, that was where I had my earrings at first.
Yeah.
Right. So I put tacks on the side, I strung a bead,
Yep.
and hung them up like this. And then as the time was going for a while, I started using it. Then a wind would blow all the earrings. This has to be practical. Can't do this. I found shutter.
Yeah.
Like, just the smaller ones. I spray painted them and I hung my earrings on them. So for a while, that was like my aesthetic for my table. So it's just, again, going, all right, I have enough to sustain myself, but I like to change it up a little bit. So it's kind of like the board was like, it was good while it lasted, but once the wind started blowing it out the way, I was like, I can't do these. I can't. You see the growth, and it's a beautiful thing.
And it depends too, because every show you have a different size booth. Sometimes you have, 5x8, sometimes you have 10x10.
Yes, that too. And that's another thing I had to learn also the hard way, because I remember the ladies saying, we have 10x10. And I'm like, okay. Not realizing 10x10 is big. It's big. You should have seen me. I'm like, oh, I gotta put this here. Oh, I gotta fluff this up here so I can so it doesn't look too empty.
I know family is very important to you. How do you balance work, small business, and family life?
I would say with grace. With grace. I luckily have a husband who understands that this is my passion, and he gets it. We met when I was 16 years old, and I just turned 40 this year. So he's known me for just basically more than half my life. And he knows that I've loved fashion. I'm actually from the Bronx, from New York City, and I went to a fashion industry school. A lot of it was creating. And maybe that's what he's seen in me at that time too. Like, oh my gosh, she likes to make, how he likes to play video games. That's like my equivalent to that. So whenever there's like a show or anything that has to do with my business, at the beginning, it was a little bit hard. There were days that I was not sleeping. And at that time I was working from 5 to 1:30. So I would wake up at 4, go to work 5, 1:30, would come home, Xavier would be napping or Joshua would be napping. I would take 3 hours, 2 hours and make. He already had dinner done before he went to work. So it gave me the time, but the kids would come home and I would have to help with homework, so
Yeah.
it's kind of going, maybe I didn't fold the clothes today, but I made 10 earrings. Or I folded the clothes. I didn't get to make 10 earrings, but tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow is another day. I could make some. But at the beginning, that wasn't my mindset. I kind of let the creativity part of my brain wouldn't shut down. I mean, I remember trying to go to sleep and going, I could make 2 more, 3 more earrings. I could be making, and that'll be 12 o'clock. I have to wake up at 4. What's wrong with you? So I had to really, like, you have 4 more hours to sleep. Go to sleep, and tomorrow is another day. So that's how I always see it. Now, if we have family things to do, then I know that is my time for my family. You kind of plan things a week ahead. That's another thing I do too. I plan stuff a week ahead and I go, all right, if I get this and this done, I'll be able to have that time. I don't want to go out with them and go, we need to hurry up because I have this and this to do. I'm not doing that. Yeah. Whatever gets done. And whatever doesn't, again, another day. My son was in football for a while. And that was also tough because I'll be down here making and he'll call me, Mommy, come and pick me up. And I'm like, I have to drop everything. I have to remember that they come first.
Yeah.
One of Rosa'S Petals, it's like my fifth child, but they come first. Family for me, that's what comes first. Once I end this call with you, I have to go upstairs and watch Alvin and the Chipmunks or Chip and Dale's, one of those. In June, I have 3 shows. They're back to back to back to back. So you know how that is. Like, but there's no way I can sit there and tell him, I'm not gonna watch Chip and Dale's with you. I have to make earrings. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
If I had to do that, then I don't think I'll have a business. I don't think I'll like this part. It's at my own pace, right? It's at my own wavelength in a way where I know myself. They come before. And sometimes there's things that we can help, but I try my best to balance it the best way I can. But I know that one will always override the other, at least for now, because my grandmother Rosa, who I named my business after, I think it's funny because people always come up and they're like, "Are you Rosa?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not Rosa. My grandmother was Rosa, and I named my business after her. She had 11 children. She was an immigrant from Dominican Republic."
Wow.
And came with all her kids. I think my mom was 16 at the time. I think 16, 17 at the time. And it wasn't easy. And I think I hold on to that. I see my grandmother do just about everything. She taught me how to sew. She taught me how to cook. She taught me how to balance it out, how to talk, how to react in certain situations, to be happy and to be present and in the moment. I can't strive for anything else, but I think it's so funny when they're like, "Hi, Rosa." And I'm like, "I'm Vanessa."
Yeah.
It's a play on words. She had 11 children. I have 30 something cousins.
Wow.
If you have 11 kids and all those kids started having more than 1 or 2 kids, it becomes a big family. And she loved us all the same. And I'm one of those petals. So
I love that. I
I had
love
to do
that.
it. Once they ask, "Are you Rosa?" it gives the entryway. And trust me, I had so many names for this business. I thought of just about everything, but that's the one that meant the most to me. And that's the one that I had to stick with.
That's cool. I love that.
I can close my eyes and vividly remember I had a Barbie and we didn't have, like I said, we weren't poor, we wasn't destitute, but no one had money to buy your Barbie clothes. Billy had money to buy you clothes. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Like, but I'm gonna teach you. So she would get like fabric, I don't know, from some stash she probably had. And her things was home decor. So she could make bed sheets. She could make, oh my God, she would make the curtains for the bathroom. Her thing was that kind of stuff. But she taught me, if you do this, hand stitch it all and cut this out. And it was like, oh my God. From that point on, I could not stop. And it's funny because the fabric shop that I used to go to as a little girl, it's still open.
That's cool.
And every time I go to the Bronx, I make sure that I stop there. I love it. I love it. So my grandmother would, "Oh, look, we have money to buy you a yard for 99 cents. So I'll get this big old thing of yard. And I don't know how many dresses I would make for this poor Barbie. Just that's how my love for creating and my love for making actually started. That's the blueprint there. And it was her. It was definitely her.
Now you make a variety of items too. I love the earrings that you have that are the dried flowers in the resin with the faces, the pendants that are faces. How did you come up with the idea for that?
Those are the ones that I've been getting mostly of, like the oohs and ahs. I call them my sleepy girls. A few years ago, when the resin was where you had to mix the parts, right? So you have to mix part A, part B. You mix it together. You have to let it, sit. Again, this is all learning process for me. I didn't realize that you have to work fast with that because it dries. And then it's hard like concrete. You can't move it. Well, then I left the resin alone because it was driving me crazy. You have to have patience for it, right? Because you think you mixed it right and you didn't. And the consistency is either too hard, there's too much bubbles. You really have to have patience for it. So I saw the faces and I was like, I think I can do something with it to make it look a little bit different. Because
Mhm.
with those, I was putting like beads on the top of the
Mhm.
head and then just letting, the faces just be by themselves but complement the bead.
Mhm.
And I was like, wait, I think I can do this. But I'm going to have to put it on hold because that kind of resin is going to drive me crazy. Well, then they came out with the one that's UV, like the UV light. You can either do the UV light or you can keep them out in the sun. So that's why I have a couple of them outside. That's why I like the sun. I put them on the hood of the car because the car gets really hot. This is another thing. You have to find the tricks. So
Mhm.
people are passing by my home and they're like, what is on that? And here I have all the faces on the hood of the car. I have all the faces on the hood of the car so it can dry. So for the first two batches, the one flower would like pop up. It took me a long time. But then once it clicked, you know what I mean? Once it
Mhm.
was like, oh, this is how you do this. My husband thinks I'm crazy already. So no wonder. But I'm sure there's people like, oh my God. But that's the creative brain, right?
Mhm.
You
Trial and
have to
error.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that, which a lot of creatives don't see themselves as scientific, but your brain has to work that way. So then I learned how to do that, how to leave them out there, how to dry out the flowers. My mother taught me actually how to dry out the
Oh,
flowers.
so you dry the flowers too?
Yes, I have to dry the flowers.
Wow.
A while ago, I had a good friend of mine who owns a flower shop. She
Mhm.
she does weddings out in New York, and she was the one that told me, "Why don't you start doing this?" And I was like, "No, I'm not dealing with resin. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's no fun." But then during the pandemic, since we had time,
Mhm.
we all had time because I didn't work from home. I still had to go in. But when I would come home, I didn't want to make because there were no shows. No one's worried about earrings. Nobody's worried about that. So I took a step back, but I was still creating and still opening my brain. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me try these now because I have the time. And once I started making them, it was like, oh, there's molds, there's little flakes that you can add in there now. I can add beads if I wanted
Mhm.
to. I've added crystals. So it's more than just the flowers, but like I said, resin is a different kind of monster and you have to have you have to have the patience. So while that's out there drying, I can come in and do the beading, the
Mhm.
earrings, which are, and the wire, which are my favorite to make because I don't have a process. So people will tell me, well, what's your process? I don't have one. I just make and I just take apart and then I'm making and then I'm making. I don't have a process. Like I really don't. I
Mhm.
just like to make it different. You would think, oh my God, those sleepy girls are selling, right? Just keep doing the sleepy girls. Don't do nothing else. Just keep doing the resin, girl. Just keep doing the resin. Don't add anything else. That's not how my creative brain works. And who knows, next year I might have something else that catches my eye and works. There's certain things that I have tried with fabric and it just didn't look right. I didn't even put pictures. That's another thing.
Mhm.
I make it and I love it. It doesn't mean everyone else has to like it. It just works out best when other people go, "Oh, I do like that." And then it gives me the go ahead to keep on trying. There's things I've made that will never make the light of day. I'm going to rip it up and I'm going to use whatever other parts that I can still use. I'll keep going, with that, but I don't really have I really don't have a process. It's just something comes up in my mind once I see it, like
Mhm.
breaking apart the necklace that I got from the thrift shop,
Yes,
right?
I saw that on Instagram. That was so
Yes.
cool. I saw
Mhm.
yesterday that you were posting about upcycling your jewelry, and I didn't realize that
And
you did that.
And that's how I started with the buttons. And I would go to these thrift shops and I would go to like Goodwill or whatever and they would have all these things, all these like necklaces and earrings and I would put holes in them. I would just make them where I can give this another life. I can give these
Yeah.
buttons something else. And that's how I started. And then you start doing it, you start telling your family and friends and they're like, "Oh my God, do you know how much stuff I have? I'm gonna give it all to you."
Oh, that's cool.
So I would get stuff from people who wanted maybe to throw it away or didn't know what to do with it. I want to say for the first year, maybe year and a half, that's what I would do. It was just upcycling, tearing things apart, and then putting them together in different ways. So that one necklace that you saw yesterday, who knows, I probably had it for like 5 years. I just keep it there. And now I'm like, oh, I can take this out. And I sat there yesterday while the kids were doing whatever they were doing and Daniel was out. And I made a whole bunch just out of that necklace. And it feels good. I love upcycling. I absolutely love it. There's a pair of earrings that I bought. I think I went to New York because I also like thrifting there. Oh my God, it's like the best thing in the world. Sometimes I'm like, I could live there. I could live there again, but I'll be so broke. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to do half of the things I'm doing. I don't think if I still lived out there, but I went and I saw they had like a whole dish and the earrings were clip-on earrings. Well, not a lot of people still wear clip-ons. I will rip the clip-on from that, put the post, and then add something else to it. That also deserves a lot of time because now on a Saturday you have to go out and you have to like find it's like finding a treasure. Sometimes you get a good batch and sometimes you've gone to 3 different stores, 3 different, shops and you're like, "Oh, I'm not finding anything." And it's kind of like, well, if you can't find nothing, I have my beads and I have my stuff that I can just create with that too. So I like mixing it, but at the beginning, that was it. I upcycled. But like I said, you put time in it, you grow. I remember one show, I decided to just make buttons, like, just turn all the buttons I had into earrings and just bring that. And then you talk to the people, and certain people will look and go, "Oh my God, those are buttons." Or, "Oh my God, I remember those buttons." So you get some people who get it, and then some people who you're like, "Oh, those were buttons before." It's kind of starting a conversation, and they go, "Those were buttons," and it feels good because you created that out of something that probably would have turned into trash and nobody would want, or something that was just gonna sit there and who knows what was gonna be done with it. I love it. There's days where I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the thrift shop and I'm gonna see what they have today and rip the stuff apart. But people start giving you stuff. My mom has friends. She lives in Connecticut. She comes with a bag and she's like, "Look, this one gave this all to you." And my aunt will come and say, "Look, I have this. I found this here." So I have a big bucket of just stuff that's like ripped apart.
Yeah.
Some necklaces are like half because I'll use this half and not this half. I'm not the only upcycler. And that's where I got that idea of going, oh, before people need to know that this came from this. And it intrigues people because it's like, oh my God, that was a necklace before. Look what she was able to do with just that one necklace. I pride myself in saying I do this on my own. I do it on my own. It might sound very like crazy because it is, but everything that I've done, I can say I've done it myself.
And every piece is one of a kind then.
Yes.
And I know you said that's important.
Yes. I like for a piece to speak to someone. It could speak to them, meaning like it's for them, or I love when I hear, "Oh my God, that looks like my sister." I hear that a lot. "Oh, that looks like my mom. I need to buy this." Or "This looks like, whoever." And that that's the only one. Now, I would say if something kind of becomes popular, like those girls, the sleepy girl, I don't want to say like those girls, like the sleepy girls, like the flowers, with the resin, since most people like them, then I kept doing them, but they're not all the same. So some are silver, some are gold, some are black, some are smaller, some have these type of flowers, some have those type of flowers. So they're kind of the same, but not really. So like these here, they all have the purple bead, right? From the necklace, but each of them are different. I think I have a couple of silver ones, a couple of gold ones, so they might have that same bead. And if you like purple, then you'll gravitate to those, but maybe you don't like silver. Gold is your thing, you know what I mean? Or maybe you don't like gold, silver is your thing. I love that. Again, there's some that will never see the light of day. I'm like, I am not. In my brain, it looked perfect, but not when I take a picture of it. I don't think anyone's gonna like this. So I just tear it apart and start all over again.
What is something that you didn't realize you'd have to spend a lot of time on when you started a small business?
I would say the website,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say social media with the posting, and I would say pictures. Oh my God,
Pictures,
I
I
hate
know.
taking pictures.
Me too.
I don't compare myself to anyone, right? I don't even compare myself to me. I don't go, well, they have that picture so nice. Why can't I take that picture? I suck at pictures. I know I suck at it. So I'm not going to sit here and compare myself to someone who, has these beautiful pictures that they take. But it's so much time to try to get the right angle. It's so much time to get the right lighting. I was at an event and one of my coworkers went and she was like, I didn't realize you made all of this. I said, I can't take pictures of everything that I make. It's almost impossible. The picture part of it, I wish I can just have a box and go to someone here. You do it. But I pride myself in doing it all myself. So there's some pictures where I tell people, I tell them up front, like, this picture looks like, don't look right. But but I'm gonna keep trying. Is the one thing that I have not grown, like in aspect of growth that I, told you, and that's probably why it hasn't grown. I think I put effort, right? But I don't think I put time. Like I don't go, today is gonna be a day that we take pictures all day long. I can't. I want to be making. I don't want to be taking pictures. It's not something that I want to do. And then of course the website. I think at this point, just about everyone, if you have a small business, you kind of have to have your website. And I can go a month, 2 months without refreshing. And I still get people that buy, but I'm like, ugh, someone bought something last week and I was like, I hope I still have it. I hope I still have the supplies to make this because I don't think I do. Oh my goodness. When you do one of a kind pieces that you're doing one piece, if somebody bought that and you don't have any more of those supplies, it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. There's only two and I've finished up my supplies. You can wait until I get more of the supplies, but I'm sorry, I don't have it. So I think the website and the taking pictures, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of people, I feel like, act like running a small business isn't really a job or it isn't really work. Have you ever had any interactions like that? Like people saying, "Oh, well, you can do that whenever," or it's not a real job.
I have heard the whole it's not a real job. I've also heard, why are you still working? That's my
Yeah,
favorite.
I've heard both too. Yeah.
Why are you still working? Why don't you have a boutique? That I've heard more than, oh, this is a part-time. You can do it whenever you want. I haven't really heard that, but I have heard the whole, why are you still working? Well, because this is my passion, right? If I had to see this as a job, maybe I wouldn't like it as much. It's a responsibility. And that's how you have to see it. You can't just go, well, that's not a real job, or you can do it whenever you want to. That's unfair to think that because we all have lives, right? If you don't work, something else still needs your attention, right? It's not just this. When you make these shows, if you pay $300, $250 for a table, and at the end of the day, you're not making your $250, you've lost.
Yeah.
And I want to say in the last 10 years that I've been doing this, that's happened to me twice. And that hits hard.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I say, I'm happy I'm still working. I'm happy I'm still working because it's a constant paycheck. Maybe that's not what someone else sees in me, where they're like, oh, you're going into that office every day. Yeah, I have to. It's my responsibility. But this is my passion. And yeah, I can pick it up whenever I want to. I can put it down whenever I want to, but it's still my responsibility. I started this. I have to keep going with it. And yeah, it's in my house. I don't know if you rent a space. I know people rent spaces and go to those spaces. But yeah, I'm lucky enough that I have a whole room. My basement is dedicated to my business. So I have a space and I have a time. But I think it's so unfair for someone to come and say, that's not a real job. Well, guess what? It paid, last week, the show that I made, I was able to pay the light I think that's a real job.
Absolutely.
Whoever bought anything from my website, I'm able to go buy supplies for my business. When I'm met with that negative thought, I always go, why would I not think that this is not a real job? Like, I always combat negativity with a question, and then I bring them into my world.
I think people who don't do what we do don't realize how long it takes and how like every little thing, finding supplies, doing your website. I mean, it's expensive and it takes a long time. And I think people just think, I don't know what they think. I think they just think, oh, look at this stuff. She's charging this. She must be making a ton of money. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all.
No. As a creative, you have to know your limit and you have to know what capacity you have. Because I think we kind of miss that sometimes as creatives. We want to do everything that pops up. It's like, stop thinking, because you get all these ideas. Now you have to carve out the time to make that idea, right? The idea doesn't make itself. It pops up into your brain. And you're like, oh, I have to figure out a time to do this. It is a real job. It is giving me an income. It is giving me a space to let go of my creation. I'm fine with criticism. That has happened to me where, and I had to learn this the hard way too, where people come to the stand and they look at your stuff and they go, oh, look at that ring. That earring is too long. Guess what? 3 customers after you come look at the earring and go, I like that earring. I want it. So I always tell everybody, take the criticism best you can and learn, because what one person doesn't care for, the other one might.
You do something interesting that I've never seen before. You actually rent a space in Lancaster called the Popup shop.
Okay.
That is so cool. Tell me about that.
So that is, I believe it opened up in November. It used to be a small little office, I think for like a psychiatrist or something. And every time I would drive by, because I have to drive by it every day to get to work.
Okay.
And I saw that the logo for whatever was there before isn't there, and it said Pop-Up Shop. Now, one thing about me is that I am a very, very curious cat. Right? I'm very like, oh, what's that? And then I don't just go, ooh, what's that? I want to know. And now with social media, you just put it in, pops up. It's like, oh, this is nice. Let me read into this. And here you could rent the space. It's a boutique experience in a way that it's yours for the day.
Yeah.
It's yours for 9 hours. You can do what you want in that space. So for me, I think it was a week before Christmas. I was supposed to do my last show. I said, self, you're going to do 3 weekends. And when you're done, you're going to have the weekend before Christmas off to get all your stuff together. Well, I see the pop-up shop and I'm like, oh no, I have to see what this is. There's no way. I go there and that Saturday is available. I'm going to do this. So you go in, they have a QR code. It pops up the calendar. It's like 3 or 4 months ahead. You're able to pick the day that you want and it's yours from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. I started at 11. I didn't finish till 7. I also do this with a lot of craft shows now. I didn't do it before, but I do it now. I want to know the feel of it. So before I even become a vendor, which a lot of these are curated. So I'm kind of jurying you before you get to jury me, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, let me see what this is. Let me go and be a customer, and I support handmade, but let me go see what this is. Let me take a look. And that's what I did. And I was like, oh, I'm booking it. Then I start talking to the people who were there before me. How was your experience? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What can I do? I pick brains because I don't mind if anybody picks mine. It doesn't bother me none when somebody starts asking me questions about anything. You want to know about something, that's how you learn, right? By asking the questions. I go June 3rd with my friend. It's going to be my first time collaborating. It'll be my 3rd time at the pop-up shop, but this is my first collaboration ever. And she also makes jewelry. I've had experience with that where it's like, oh, she makes jewelry too? I don't care. We don't make the same thing. I don't see anyone as my competition. I don't see anyone as my rival. I don't participate in that. I've bought jewelry from other jewelry makers that I like myself that I can't make. I can't make clay. I don't want to do none of that clay stuff. It looks beautiful, but the pop-up, that's how it usually works. And it's getting a lot of traction. And you can sell anything. I think I saw someone who was putting like out like an album of or something, and they had like an album party in there and people were listening to him. And
Oh, that's
so
cool.
it's someone, I think last month, bought like a easel, like one of those easels that they draw, and she drew the whole time and she had her stuff out. And it's a pop-up shop because that's what it is. You're popping up for the day or for 3 days or however long you want to pop up for. But it's the creative experience that I like the most. They let you have at it. With these craft shows, a lot of times they promote you. So everyone's coming because they're promoting. So with this, they're promoting you as well. And then you get to promote you.
Yeah.
You get to say, I'm going to be here all day long. Stop by and see me if you can. There's a lot of stuff in that area. And I tell my friends, do it.
Yeah.
I tell anyone that wants to ask me about it. Mind you, it's not my business. I don't personally know these people, but I know my creatives, and we all want to have a space that's for us.
Yeah.
So I always say, go. Here's the QR code.
I think it's such a cool idea. It's so different. I'd
Yes.
never heard of anything like that
Yes.
before. And I think it's really
Yes.
cool that it's in our area.
Yep. And I also, I've heard of it in New York,
Mm.
but it's expensive.
Mm.
So to have it here,
You posted about a book called The Crafty Superstar Ultimate Craft Business Guide, which is a book that you said that helped you get started. Do you still reference that book today?
I do, and I wish you would come out with another one because it's time. So when I started this in 2013, I know a lot of people love Google. I'm not a lover of Google because it's like a rabbit hole. I just want the answer. And the book is always the best thing, right? So there was nothing about craft shows. There was nothing about events. There was nothing about anything. I think Pinterest maybe had a couple of things where you can find like what to bring and what not to forget and, those type of things. I was out, I don't know, Barnes and Nobles, because I do love to read. I am a bookworm. I remember seeing that book and it gives you templates. It gives you websites to go to. It gives you markup advice. It gives you so much. I don't want to say I wasn't serious before. I wanted to try it. Like I said, I'm a curious cat. Let me try it one time. And once I got the bug, it was like, oh, now I got to do this as much as I can in churches and backyards and garages and yard sales. I'm going to do this all the time. It's a Saturday. Sign me up. That book was written in 2012, so it's been 10 years. And she hasn't came out with another one, but that is the one that I still go to. Like I still have highlights in it. That's where I learned, because if you do a craft show in Harrisburg, you have to have a license for that. I didn't know that. I learned that from that book. So every jurisdiction has a different license. Even if you have your retail, ID license that you have for Pennsylvania, across the way, you might need a license for that. Starting out, no one tells you that. I didn't know that. So now I make sure that if I'm going to do something in Carlisle, or I'm going to do something in New Cumberland, I always ask, do I need to have my license for that spot? Because I didn't know that. On my bucket list, I would like to do a show in New York. I would like to do a show in Philadelphia. They invited me for a show in Baltimore in August. I'm still thinking about doing that one, but now I need to find out. Before I say yes, before I make a payment, before I agree and sign application, I need to ask that question. Do you need a license? And this goes back to that question. That's not real. Money that I have to pay to get that license is very real.
Right.
Oh, you can do that whenever you want to. No, I can't do it whenever I want to because that requires a license. It might be small, and that's the part that people don't see, but it's very real when it comes to that. I don't want the IRS anywhere near me. Back to the book, I referenced, and then I learned that she had another one, and I might get it even though it's old. It's called Crafty Superstar, Make Crafts on the Side, earn extra cash and basically have it all. The other one that I have here is formulas and strategies for arriving at craft prices for selling online or off, wholesale or retail. I'm always looking to better myself. Like I said, Google is fine. You can find certain things, but I'd rather have it in a book because it just feels, maybe I'm old school that way. I don't know. But it just feels like, I have the template for it. And
Yeah.
I recommend if someone's going to start with that book. And she gives you like the templates. She has like just a whole bunch of different things. And, yeah, we can create, but we need to see the other side of it. And the other side of it is that, like, okay, how do I do my taxes? What's the tax rate in Pennsylvania? The tax rate here is different from the tax rate, in Denver or wherever. It's different.
Yeah.
That book has all of that for you.
That's cool.
That's good to have. I don't mean to plug it, but if you go to Amazon, if you go to Amazon now, I think it's like $4 or something like that. It's not a lot.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, not a lot.
What are some ways small businesses can help each other? How can we support other small businesses?
I think the best way to do it is word of mouth. I always like to tag other people. If I'm at a craft show, I think that's how me and you met, where I was like, I take pictures and I post it on, what's your business card? Are you on Instagram? And how can I tag you? And then people are, they're coming for you because they're your followers. But I'm not the only one in this show. This show is ran by the creatives that are there. So I think that's one way. Another way is also talking to each other. Hey, the pop-up shop is there. You might want to go to the pop-up shop. Oh, I heard about this show and there's a festival going on. I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm busy that weekend. Do you have time to do it? Yeah, I do. Here's the promoter or whoever. Get an application from them. I'm big with that because sometimes I can't do it. I have another show that day, or maybe that's the day that I chose that I have to sit and make more stuff. And my friend, one of my creative compadres or whatever we want to call ourselves,
I love that.
They might have the time. Hey, look, they have something down the street. Did you see? To me, that's how you do it. And to also talk to each other and say, this is going on, or, oh, this didn't work for me. Like I said, I don't like to deal with the negativity of it all. I try my best to stay away, and I'm always questioning negativity. Always. I've always been this way. But sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes you have to tell someone, yeah, that didn't work for me. It might work for you, but go ahead. You have at it. That didn't work for me, but you could go ahead and try it for yourself if you want to. Have at it and tell me your experience. So I think that's the best way to help. And of course, when I do these shows, I would have to tell myself, don't get anything. I think maybe that lasted for maybe 3 shows. But by the 4th show, I was like, oh no, I can't. There's someone who she makes necklaces, and then the pendant is like a sunflower, and she puts it in between glass and solders like around. And I was like, oh my God, my mom loves sunflowers. This is perfect. I got it. There's no skin off my back to go, I couldn't have made it, but I know my mom is going to love the necklace. I'm not going to go, oh, because I make jewelry, and I've heard that too. How are you going to buy jewelry if you make? Because I don't make it like that. Right. I don't know how to make it like that. I don't want to make it like that. But it's beautiful. How can I not buy it? That's just never been me. You help where you can and how you can. And it goes a long way, whether personal or within your business.
Yeah.
You help when you can.
You told me you do wholesale orders. How did you get into that, and how do you find your customers for that?
That was from the book, because I didn't know what wholesale was. So that was from the book. They have something called line sheets, and line sheets is you have a picture and then you describe your item. What's the retail price? What's the wholesale price? And then this is what you send. So they know what this is. They see the picture, they see your description, and then they see your retail and what the wholesale is going to be.
Okay. So then they pick from that.
They pick from that, because with the line sheet then comes like the order form. You can make your own, or you can go out into the Google world and they have templates for you where you don't have to make your own. Well, I started reaching out to these boutiques and just going, my name is Vanessa, I do jewelry, da, 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 da. And at first it was so like you wouldn't hear from people.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would hear from people and go, oh, I kind of like it, but I don't know yet. I think by like the 6th month, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Well, someone reached out to me and she said, let me have your line sheet. And I knew what that meant. That was so exciting for someone to I'm like, I worked so hard on this line sheet. Somebody finally wants to see it. Oh my goodness. So she said, I want this. So she put in her order of what she wanted. She sent it back to me. And I was able to then, since it was local, I was able to go to her and then meet her and then see the store. That was my first one. And then someone else in Lidditz, the mustard seed. She's not there anymore, but she was another one that was like, yeah. So I was able to, send the line sheet and she was able to see what I had. She saw my stuff at Building Character, actually.
Okay.
And she reached out to me and I said, oh my God, yes. That's how I've been able to do it. So it has gone both ways where I'm reaching out or they reach out to me. I would say if you have a website, make that a point somewhere in your website where you say wholesale orders, accepted. So like that, they kind of know like, okay, I'm going to reach out to her that way. That's how I learned that. That was through the book. I had no idea what wholesale was until I read the book. But with the whole COVID thing, a lot of small businesses have gone down. I haven't revisited that in a long time.
If you could go back to Vanessa in 2013 and give her advice, what would you say?
Look what you've done. Look what you've done for playing around. You were supposed to only play with this. No, I would have to tell myself, you have to put in a lot of time. Time management is important. And I think I didn't realize how important time is. I have to carve out the time and make, and I don't know, maybe I was too naive, or like I said, I didn't mean for this to be what it is. I really didn't. It was just something where I've always been a creative. I've always wanted to make. And let's be clear, I didn't just start making jewelry. Like before jewelry, I started with baby clothes. Nobody wanted baby clothes. I didn't get not one anything. I didn't get not one anything from somebody going, oh yeah, that's cute. No. And then I had for tablets, I used to make, like the covers. Girl, not one person on Etsy was like, oh yeah, let's like this. It wasn't until I started by mistake, made something for myself, put it on myself for someone to go, oh, I like that. It wasn't until then that I was like, oh, maybe I could do something with this. You need time to create. Like I said, we're going to go watch Chip and Dale once I get off of this, right? So there's certain things that I can take upstairs that maybe while we're watching Chip and Dale, but then I started noticing, oh my God, I'm not engaged. I'm not engaged. They're laughing. I'm down doing a wire of something. They start, ha 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 ha. I look up. What is it? What was so fun? So I stopped doing that. So you have to put in the time. You have to put in the time. Now, I know I've put in the time because of all the growth I've done, right? Like you see that. I've always say that when you put in the time in anything, in a relationship, if you want to lose weight, if you want to get the promotion, you have to put in that time. Yeah. And if you can't take that time, then it doesn't become fun. It doesn't become something you want to do anymore. And also, don't be so hard on yourself. I've always been hard on myself. You didn't finish that? That's fine. You have like another 10, 15 pair of earrings that are going to do just fine. The overthinking sometimes clouds your brain and should I bring this? Should I bring that? It's a lot of that. Stop it with the overthinking and, just carve out the time.
I get like that too. Overthinking, like, oh, they're not going to like this, or, oh, I need more of that. And, oh, did I make that right? And did I cut all my little strings off? Well, believe it or not, we are getting close to the end of the podcast. So that means random fact time. Do you have your
Okay.
fact for me?
The term upcycling was coined in 1994 by Rainier Bliss. Recycling at the time diminished the value of old or used products, so he suggested new value must be added instead, leading to the term upcycling.
That's awesome.
That's what it is. Creative reuse. It's funny that it was coined in 1994. I feel like it's a term we've been using like within the last decade. I think someone had to say it to me where they're like, oh yeah, you're upcycling. And I was like, what? I had to like go, oh yeah, that is what I'm doing. And I'm very picky. That's another thing. Let's be clear. If I see a scratch, if I see a dent, if I see whatever, I'm like, yeah, that's not coming with me. That's somebody else can deal with that. I am very picky with what I choose and how I choose to upcycle it. It's something that I love to do.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
I didn't think that it happened in 1994. I thought it was something that was more recent. I didn't know they were upcycling then. Not that it was so far away.
Yeah.
But kind of like DIY.
Right.
You know, when people say DIY, it's like, I've been DIYing all my life. Like,
right.
What are you talking about? It's something I've done. Oh my God. It's something I've been doing for a while. What do you mean DIYs?
Well, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. And I just love talking with you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at shows soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Handmade with Heart podcast. Be sure to follow Vanessa at one of Rosa'S Petals and me at Scrappy Stitch. And don't forget to subscribe to the Handmade with Heart podcast so you never miss an episode. See you next time.